Welcome to Community Matters, a weekly radio show on issues that matter to our community. Here now is your host, community leader Leon Goldenberg. But first, these messages from our sponsors.
It's the whole family that's singing with me. It's the fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers. It's the satisfied customers for 40 years. And today, the king of carpeting has become the king of flooring, too, with that gorgeous showroom at 214 Ditmas Avenue. Who's the king of carpeting? Quality! Who's the king of flooring, too? Quality! Visit 214 Ditmas Avenue. Quality! For 40 years. Quality! That's the name. Quality! You can trust for carpet and for custom floor. Call 718-941-4200.
Shavua Tov, Leon Goldenberg with another edition of Community Matters. And I have two very interesting guests. I think I usually have very interesting guests, but I think today's guests are really from two different parts of the world. One is actually from Brooklyn, and one is works in Manhattan, but you're from Connecticut, if I'm correct.
That is correct. But family's from Sheepshead Bay, so I got Brooklyn blood.
He's got Brooklyn blood. So my two guests are here sitting with me is Pastor Gil Monrose, who is a pastor right here in Brooklyn, who is a Seventh-day Adventist. Am I correct?
Seventh-day Sabbath keeping.
Sabbath keeping.
Yeah.
Okay. So first off, Gil, welcome to the show, Pastor. And my other guest is Evan Bernstein, who's the New York Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League. Welcome to the show, Evan.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So kind of, two different places, but we're going to slowly somehow try to tie the two of them together. But first, for me, Pastor Gil, as many people call him, my first meeting with him was about 6 or 8 years ago when there was a letter that was signed by 54 members of the House calling for the president to force Israel to open up the borders of Gaza. Forget about that; they're delivering all the food on a regular basis, and that but they wanted them to open it up. And many of us in the Israel community were really upset, especially when it turned out that two of the people that signed were here in New York State, and one right here in New York City. And I reached out to the member of Congress, and I asked for a meeting, and the member agreed to the meeting. But I felt that I had to let the member know that it's not just the Jewish community that is in strong support of Israel, but there are members of the African American community that are also strong supporters of Israel. And somebody introduced me at that time to Pastor Gil Monrose, and I reached out to him, and he said he'd be delighted to come because he thinks the letter was wrong also. And we came down to the meeting, and the pastor came in with me, and I think the member was a little taken aback because the member thought that it was only the Orthodox community that opposed the letter, and the pastor spoke passionately about Israel, and I think it had a major impact. And so our relationship, and we've gone out to eat already, really goes back quite a bit of time. And he reminds me, which I really remember very vaguely, and you can tell it, Pastor, because I don't remember exactly the incident.
Yeah, so thank you again, Leon, for having me back here. A couple of years ago, we had a very difficult time in East Flatbush where the community was in uprest when a police officer shot and killed a young man called Kamani Gray. And during that time, we had a lot of different agitators coming from out of the community, marching on the police and really just have the community in uproar. I call it the first Ferguson, if we want, very much so mobilized with our community and our police. And one of the things that really was helpful for us is that while we were besieged for 7 days of all of this protests and quote-unquote small riots, you reached out to our clergy council group, the God Squad, and you offered some financial assistance and also some hope for us to let us know that, listen, whatever you can do to help, you were there to stand with us because we stood for you. And so I just wanted to thank you after many, 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 many years that you really came through for us. So thank you as well.
My pleasure, and you can always count on me.
Thank you so much.
So, Evan, how did you get to meet the pastor?
Well, through my natural work at the ADL, we do a lot of community outreach, and actually, when I first started forming relationships with some of the borough presidents, and one was Borough President Eric Adams. And unfortunately, there were a lot of incidents that took place in Crown Heights, and I was standing next to Borough President Eric Adams on numerous occasions, and we got to know each other, and we met privately in his office at Brooklyn Borough Hall and discussing issues. And really what was amazing from that came the ability for us to start doing partnerships with the borough president around institutional security. So we actually did an event in Brooklyn Borough Hall with multiple faith-based institutions. We brought in the FBI, NYPD, other law enforcement, and Pastor Gill and I had an opportunity to work together with our teams on that event, and we got to know each other. And from there, I think, formulated a really great working partnership and friendship, and have been standing together, since then. And it's been an amazing journey getting to know Pastor Gill and seeing the work that he does in Brooklyn and the work that he does around, with the God Squad and everything else that he does for the borough president. So it's been a fun last few years for sure.
So now Israel has a program together with the JCRC, who people do not give nearly enough credit to, but actually the JCRC is going, I think, next week with new members of the city council and taking them to Israel. I was at the APAC dinner this week, and several members, I don't remember who, told me that they'll be on the trip. Mm-hmm. It's also, I think there are members of the assembly that are also going. They're going on the trip. And they took you to Israel last year.
Yes. As a matter of fact, in 2008 was the first time that I, with JCRC, Rabbi Michael Millen, Rabbi Bob Kaplan, who, of course, I always say is my mentor, and they took us on a trip to Israel, and then we started to work with the Tourism Board of Israel and JCRC last year to take Caribbean pastors who either is from the Caribbean or who pastors a large number of people from the Caribbean in their congregation. And so we went over to Israel last year, and then when we came back, just 10 pastors, and we came back and we said, listen, we have to allow our members to experience the joy of seeing the Holy Land, to see where Yeshua walked in our tradition, to see the history, to see that the Torah can come alive again, to see the plight of the Jewish people, to see the complexity of the city. And so we got together and we agreed. And so we thought that we would probably get maybe 100 people who would be interested to go. And so 4 of the pastors out of the 10 said, yes, we're going to go. And lo and behold, we got 210 individuals, say, yes, we want to go.
Yes, they want to go.
Yeah, yes, they want to go. So they save up the pennies for all these years, and we were off to the Holy Land in flying colors. And
Evan, you accompanied them.
Yeah, I was gracious enough to be invited by Pastor Monrose on the trip, and it was taking LL with a group from JFK, and then experiencing really a different version than I've seen of Israel. I mean, it was my 10th trip to Israel, and I've lobbied in the Knesset and in the Ministry of Education, and I've been there, with Missions with Federation when I started my career at APAC, and seeing things on this trip from a very different lens was really extraordinary, and being able to be part of some really intimate moments for members of the trip, especially the Mount Zion Church congregation, and being there for them, at the Mount of Olives or the Garden Tomb, and just seeing how meaningful this was, and really having those conversations. The conversations I had with the congregants on the bus are some of the best memories I've probably ever had. Personally or professionally. So it was just an amazing experience, seeing it from their lens and kind of experiencing Israel, almost for the first time with new eyes. It was really extraordinary.
So you went to also Christian places.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
Right.
Yes.
So you actually saw places that you never went to before, and some of them I've been to. I don't want to tell you how many times I've been to Israel because I can't begin to count. But certainly in the dozens of times, and I've never gone. And
right.
You know what? it probably would be interesting for me also to see some of these places.
Because I'll tell you what, Leon, those places are actually, they're in Jerusalem. They're very important to us. And so that's what Jerusalem, that's our common bond that we have, is that we celebrate the same places being holy and being sacred to us. And so with all the other issues that goes around Israel and all the other things that we have, whether it's with the Palestinian state and with the Arab countries, one of the central themes that we hold dear to because of what we believe in to be true is that the Bible continues to say that you have to pay for the peace of Jerusalem. And so when we pray for that peace, we are saying that we want to have an active role and an active part in what goes on in even the modern Israel today. So the common bond that we have is that we celebrate together the holiness of the area, of the place, of the land of Israel, and of course of Jerusalem.
So before we go on, just let me say again who my two guests are. Pastor Gil Monrose, right here in Brooklyn, and you have several different titles. Okay.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Listen, I work for the borough president, as his director of faith-based and clergy initiative, Eric Adams.
Which I get every week invitations to different things that you're doing to reach out to all the communities in Brooklyn, which I think is,
and that's important.
Wonderful.
And I pastored the Mount Zion Church of God Seventh-day in a former Jewish synagogue on East 37th Street, one of the three beautiful synagogues that was built in the 1920s. And if you come there today, you'll see most of those trappings that you can tell. There. Yes, they're still there, and we want to maintain that. And so we want to preserve our Judaic heritage, which is very important to us as well. So, yes.
And also, Evan Bernstein, New York Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League, who we went out to lunch, I would have to say, probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, which is too long because we really need to catch up and we really need to go forward with things that are important to the community. You can follow me at Leon Goldenberg 1, Leon Goldenberg 1, numeral 1. Do you have a Twitter account or Facebook?
Definitely. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram is the same across the board. Pastor Monrose. Pastor Monrose. Pastor Monrose.
At Pastor Monrose, okay. And Evan, do you have a Twitter account?
Yeah, I'm very active on Twitter.
Yes,
at Bernstein_Evan.
Okay, at Bernstein_Evan.
Yes.
So you went to Israel, you saw Israel, you also saw how in Israel, under the Israeli government, you have full access to all sites. Everybody has full access, which is something that did not exist before. How do you feel about that?
So I think that it is great. I don't know if you. I probably think that you know because you are in a mosaic of individuals here in New York City and in Brooklyn. But I don't know if the larger Jewish community understand how much we have tied in, simply because of, again, the Holy Land and what we believe is the Holy Land. So that alone ties us in, and I don't understand. Maybe they probably don't know the amount of support, especially from the Caribbean.
No, people
residents,
do not begin to realize that. They
just don't, can't be, they probably don't realize how much support that is given to the Holy Land from our perspective. To get 210 individuals to go from Brooklyn to Israel, I think it probably could be a record. I'm not sure. In the next 2 years, we're looking with some support from Evan and ADL and with the JCRC and other groups and individuals who wants to support this, to be able to even take more individuals. That's the idea, is to be able to open Israel up to the people so that they can go back to the place where they read.
You can see where Christianity began, but you can also see what really is going on. And although I don't think they took you on a political tour, but you still get a...
This tour was not political, but the other tours, of course, we mixed with meeting with the Ethiopian Jews, hearing about their plight and their struggles, and seeing how we can work together along with them, along with the with the Israeli government. Yes, but this trip itself was a pilgrimage for our church members to just enjoy for the first time a place where they have heard for years and years and years about this place. And so it was a great pilgrimage for them. But we do get into, of course, the political side of it from the leader standpoint, but not from the membership standpoint
not
too
membership,
much.
But even in the membership, they see a country that's open and free,
yes,
just like America.
Yes.
Not things that they're hearing about, and they really, you see all kinds of people walking on the streets. Everybody's walking comfortably. You go into West Jerusalem.
Oh yeah, it's open, and so the idea that JCRC came in the beginning from 2008, and why they do all of these events is because they want to prove that Israel is open, it is safe. And so the question that we had, because there was some protests going on like 2 weeks before we got there, people were saying, is it safe? And we were totally safe. And Evan can also say that we felt safe and no one felt endangered.
Right. The mayor of Jerusalem, I forget which mayor he met with recently, and he asked him, what is the murder rate in your capital, in your city? Mm-hmm. And I think he said it was 3 per 100,000. So he says ours, with including the knifing intifada, I think is 1.3 per 100,000. So with everything going on, I'll be there next month. Mm-hmm. I walk in Jerusalem completely. Evan, what did you come away with, and what did you think was important?
I think for me, again, this wasn't a political journey for me, and so many of my other trips had political kind of overtones to it. But it was about first of all, I was in positions of just answering a lot of questions about being a modern Orthodox Jew. A lot of the members there had only had any interactions they had with the Jewish community was typically more from the Hasidic point of view in Brooklyn, and there wasn't, I think, a lot of open dialogue there for them to have those kind of intimate conversations over breakfast the way they were with me. So we talked about holidays, and we talked about Jewish customs, and we talked about shared customs that especially Pastor Gill's church has with the Jewish community, and talking about the Shabbat, and talking about the different holidays and kashrut and all those kinds of things were just amazing conversations, and clearly also talking about, like, when we went to the Golan Heights and having conversations about Hezbollah, and having conversations about the threats that Israel inherently has on a daily basis, not only internally but externally, and be able to have those conversations intimately and not just behind the podium is something that was truly amazing, and they asked amazing questions, and it was a great dialogue, and I learned a lot about them and their culture and where they came from and their personal stories as immigrants and coming into this country, and how hard they've worked and what they were able to do to be able to get to a place where they could come. It was like a dream for a lot of them. It was an absolute dream, like a pinnacle of their life, to be able to be in Israel, to stand and walk in those footsteps of Yeshua and be able to do and see those things is something that, as when they were young people, it was something they could never have imagined happening, and for them it was, a life moment that was spectacular and transformative.
So we should be trying to get together more, which we always talk about, but the reality is everybody's busy with their day. The two different communities where they can actually talk over a breakfast.
Yes, and I think that is definitely important to have that cross dialogue and conversation. Because again, when you have something that bonds you together, it's a meeting place, it's a place of interest, and so there's common ground. And I think that one of the work that Rabbi Bob Kaplan did, and the reason that he's my mentor is because when I was trying to figure out how do I reach out to the other, quote unquote, he was able to really bring me into the conversation and say, listen, even though we're different, but we still have a lot in common. But the other thing to that is that, Leon, as you know, is that we have to live together in Brooklyn. Right. So
right. We need to. I'm going. I have a busy schedule. I think Jeannie in my office will admit that I, basically have a very busy schedule. But I think we're going to have to make some time and really force the issue, and maybe create like a breakfast that we can get together a bunch of people just to say hello.
And I think that would be great.
And talk about different things. Evan, would you take part in that? I'm putting him on the spot.
1,000% with bells on. And I think just to reiterate what Pastor Gill said, Rabbi Kaplan was on the trip. He was already in Israel and was with us for the beginning part of the trip, and also had a lot of those conversations as well with a lot of the congregants. And I think that this is the kind of thing that has to be a team effort, from the Jewish community. It can't be just silent off. We have to all kind of come together and start building these bridges. And as Pastor Gill said, Rabbi Bob Kaplan has done that for an extraordinarily long period of time at a very high level. And I think it's, this is what's happening now is a lot of the fruits of his labor. And I think that it's imperative that all of us in the civil rights community, not just in the Jewish civil rights community, understand that these conversations have to be had. And it can't just be out of the ivory tower. It has to be where we're face-to-face and having these longer, intimate kind of conversations. Because, just on that trip, I saw the kind of impact those conversations made on me, and I think made on the people I was sitting with. And I think it's something we need to continue and do a lot more of.
Okay, so that's something that I'm going to take seriously, and I'm going to work with it. And I will reach out to some of the organizations here in Flatbush and see if we can't get some, not huge breakfast, small breakfast, 20, 30 people getting together, some from the Jewish side and some from the African-American side, and just have an open conversation. With no agenda.
No agenda. That'd be great.
Agenda.
The agenda is that we don't have an agenda. but I also want to tell you, though, Leon and listeners, is that I have always used in my ministry that my agenda is so big that I can't hide it. And so we want to be open and transparent. And at the end of the day, we have to make sure that that's the truth, that we want to be open, we want to be transparent, and we have to have conversation and dialogues between our groups, between the African American community, between the Caribbean community, between the Jewish community, whether you're Hasidic or Evan, you said modern
Orthodox.
Modern Orthodox.
Modern Orthodox.
Modern Orthodox.
Whatever that means, right, Leon? but it's
Rav Soloveitchik, I think, would probably be okay with that term, I would think.
Right.
But yeah, we need to really come together to have the type of dialogue and discussion for sure.
I will tell you a very quick story. I went to Portugal over Thanksgiving, and I met the most interesting Jewish community in the world that I ever saw. And I travel a lot, and I look at, that's the focus. And there was, and hard to imagine, right after World War I, a modern Orthodox Jew from Poland went to Portugal as an engineer to work in the mines. And over there, I don't know exactly how it happened, but he must have been saying a bracha or davening, praying, and he said the word Adonai, and somebody overheard him. And he says, "How do you know that word?" He says, "Well, I'm Jewish." He says, "You're Jewish? There's no such thing. We are the only Jews left in the world." And it turned out that there was a community living in Belmonte, which is 2 hours out of Lisbon or 3 hours out of Lisbon, in the mountains. And they had been in hiding from 1496, when the Jews were told to either convert or die. And they had maintained some very limited Jewish traditions, but they knew they were Jews until this modern Orthodox Jew from Poland. Did you know there were modern Orthodox Jews in Poland, Evan?
No, I did not know that, no.
I didn't know it either, but that's how it's given over, that he was a modern Orthodox Jew. So I actually plan to do a show on that, so I'm not going to give away all the secrets. But he was a modern Orthodox Jew from Poland in 1919, 1920, something like that. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to take seriously, what Pastor Gill has spoken about, and I will ask Evan to join us in that also. And if you have any final words for the audience.
It was surely a pleasure and a delight to take my congregants and others from Brooklyn to Israel. And I will definitely like to share it again with you and with other leaders to see what we have learned and what we feel and share together. And it was an amazing trip. And I want to thank those who joined us on the trip. Pastor Charles Galbraith, Pastor Gene Mullery, Pastor Clifford McDowell, who were the driving forces on their churches and their congregations in central Brooklyn. Thank you, Rabbi Michael Miller, for taking us to Israel in 2008, and back again, Rabbi Bob Kaplan, and everyone who had a great time. Thank you, Evan, for joining us on the trip. And we just want to be able to thank you, Leon, for bringing us back on this radio program. Thanks again.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Evan.
No, I want to just say thank you to Pastor Monrose for giving me the opportunity to be able to be on this trip and just to be able to have this experience and such a unique experience, for me. And my father was a civil rights leader in the 60s with Model Cities and LBJ, and And to be with this group on MLK Day and be able to experience all these things that we did throughout the week was more than a professional highlight. It was a personal highlight, and is something I've been thinking about every single day and probably will for a very, very long time. And just a very, very special moment for me. And I just want to say thank you to Pastor Monrose and the other pastors for sharing this experience with me. Thank you.
Shavua Tov, till next week when I have another edition of Community Matters.
You are listening to Community Matters with your host, Leon Goldenberg.
Attention property managers and building owners. Is your boiler down? Are your tenants calling 311? Do you need professional boiler service right away? Then call Positive Heating at 718-629-4000. Since 1977, Positive Heating has installed thousands of boilers and provided excellent service at affordable prices to large apartment buildings in New York City. Thinking of converting your boiler? Call us at 718-629-4000 or visit us online at positiveheating.com. Take a positive approach and call Positive Heating at 718-629-4000, a family business that keeps families warm.
Oh, it's the whole family that's singing with me. It's the fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers. It's the satisfied customers for 40 years. And today, the king of carpeting has become the king of flooring, too, with that gorgeous showroom at 214 Ditmas Avenue. Who's the king of carpeting? Quality! Who's the king of flooring, too? Quality! Visit 214 Ditmas Avenue. Quality! For 40 years. Quality! That's the name. Quality! You can trust for carpet and for custom floor. Call 718-941-4200.
Did you know that electric and gas companies routinely make many costly mistakes on your monthly bills? It's a fact that 70% of their bills have errors costing consumers thousands upon thousands of dollars. Refund Services Associates audits electric and gas bills for multifamily properties over 20 units and nursing homes in New York State. And here's the good news. Refund Services Associates doesn't charge you a penny unless they're able to save you money. They only make money if you save money. They operate on a contingency basis, so you have no risk but only the potential to save money each and every month. All you need to do is send them one complete bill from your utility company, and they'll do the rest working to save you money. Call Refund Services Associates now at 718-972-1800 extension 101 for your energy audit. That's 718-972-1800 extension 101. You have nothing to lose but money by not calling them. That's 718-972-1800 extension 101. Now is the ideal time to sell real estate and take advantage of a hot market for sellers. Becca Realty is an investment company specializing in real estate purchases that owns many properties and looking to buy multi-family properties in the New York and New Jersey area. With over 35 years in the business, Becca Realty pays top dollar and can guarantee you a quick closing. If you have a multi-family property, then please call 732-363-5682 and see what Becca Realty can do for you. That's 732-363-5682, Becca Realty. You've been listening to Community Matters with community leader Leon Goldenberg on matters of concern to the Jewish community. Make sure you tune in every Saturday night, 10 o'clock, for Leon Goldenberg and Community Matters.